one who is talking.
Sure.
Yeah.
No. I'm afraid I'm on the bridge.
You're fine. You're fine.
We found it was across the shade.
I might need it. Maybe. No, you're fine. Oh, yeah. You're fine. Yeah. Not to worry. Not to worry. Just be comfortable.
stuff.
Hearing voices so far.
Well, actually,
there is a
yes.
there. Faith. Oh.
Yoshe beseter elyon besel shada yitlonan omar laranai maxi umitzudati Elohai eftach bo ki hu yatzilcha mipach yakush bidever havot bevrato yasech lafetach ekrafatech saha sinav sochera mito lo tirami pachat laila mechatz yauf yomam medever bafol yachalov biketev yashut sohorayim Yipo b'tzika elef ravami minecha elecha lo yigash Rak beinecha tabi v'shilu madr shaim tirehe Ki atadonai maxi elyon samta meonecha Lo tunei lecha ra'a v'nek yikra b'ha lecha Ki malacha v'elach lishmarcha b'chol drachecha Al kapai misoncha, pen digof ba'even rak lecha, al shachav afet didroch tirmotz kefir v'tanin, ki vicha shak v'afate yasak ve'yu ki yada shemihi. Yikra eni v'nei imo anochi b'tzara, achal seiv achabdeyu, oroch imatzbir v'arehu yushuatihi, oroch imatzbir v'arehu b'yishuatihi.
is our custom to begin with a reading from the Psalms. I thank David Gisser for chanting it as we entered. For those who dwell in the shelter of the Most High and abide in the protection of Shaddai, I say of God, Adonai, my refuge and stronghold, my God in whom I trust. God will save you from the fowler's trap, from the destructive plague. God will shelter you, you will find refuge, for God's fidelity is an encircling shield. You need not fear the terror by night, or the arrows that fly by day, the plague that stalks in the darkness, or the scourge that ravages at noon. You will see it with your eyes. No harm will befall you. No disease will touch your tent. For God will order angels to guard you wherever you go. They will carry you in their hands, lest you hurt your foot on a stone. You will safely tread on cubs and vipers, fearlessly step on lions and asps. As God has said, I will deliver those devoted to me. I will protect those who know my name. When they call on me, I will answer by being there in time of trouble, by rescuing and honoring, by satisfying with long life, and revealing my salvation. Al mekomo yavo v'shalom. May our beloved Maurice Steele go unto God in peace. Hatzur tamim paulo ki chol rachav mishpat el emunah ve'inav el tzadik b'yashar hu. Tzadik atah Adonai lamidu l'hachayot asher b'yadcha pikadon kol ruchot chalil lecha zichronenu limchot v'yiyu nainecha b'rachamim aleinu fikuchot ki lecha Adon harachamim v'haslichot. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach yehi shem Adonai mevorach. V'hu rachum yechaper avon v'lo yashchi, v'hirba l'shiva po v'lo yirko chamato, v'yashov hafar al Elohim, v'aruach tashuv al Elohim asher netana. The dust returns to the earth as it was, but the spirit returns to God who gave it. Send comfort, Adonai, O God, to those who are in mourning, to those whose burden is sorrow. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, everyone who has tuned in to the broadcast of our service, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining together to bring comfort and strength to Maurice's loved ones and to honor Maurice Steele. The eye never has its fill of seeing, nor the ear of hearing. It says this in Kohelet, the Hebrew name of the biblical book of Ecclesiastes. Young or old, those who depart this world always leave us too soon. We always wish we had more time to share in each other's joys, comfort each other in our sorrows, and share more precious moments together. But it also says in Kohelet, there is a time to be born and a time to die. Today we have come together to say goodbye to Maurice Steele. Today we have come together to say goodbye to Maurice Steele, as he was known by his Hebrew name Moshe ben Shlomo uMichala, the son of Sam and MINYAN Steele, Zichronam Livracha, of blessed memory. Maurice passed away on Saturday, the 10th day in the Hebrew month of Tammuz. He was 92. He is lovingly remembered by his family, his wife Patricia, his daughters Tamara, Ilana, and Leora, his son-in-law ID, granddaughter Samantha, grandsons Jacob, Noah, and Daniel, his sister Mira and her family, nieces, nephews, cousins, and his brother Robert and sister-in-law Judy, and their whole family as well. He is also remembered by many people he met through decades in business, in his work in construction in Winnipeg, throughout so much of really his entire life. Partners, colleagues, employees. It's very telling when someone passes at 92 years old and there are so many people at his funeral. Most people by 92 have lost most of their friends, often a lot of their family. But it speaks to the impact he had, not just on his generation, but on the generations that came after him. To have so many people gather and so many more people tune in to this memorial service. In a moment, I will call up Maurice's daughters to eulogize him, to speak on his behalf, a tribute to him. By way of introduction, I will offer another piece of Jewish wisdom. It's very consistent with Maurice's personality to offer even unsolicited pieces of wisdom. In Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our fathers, it says the rabbis teach of 3 crowns. The crown of Torah, the crown of royalty, and the crown of priesthood. But, they emphasize, there is a 4th crown, one that exceeds them all, the crown of a good name. Tamara, Ilana, and Leora will speak to Maurice's good name, not just as a father, but as someone they have also seen, especially in recent days, through people who knew him in a different way, with a different perspective. What's consistent is his reputation, his good name. It's fitting that we quote from the ethics of our fathers, because a patriarch like him, in family and in business, was always so right-minded, so sure of himself, so sure of his convictions. When it came to every decision, big or small, he was guided by loyalty, by honesty, by morality, by his ethics. Ethics he learned from his mother and father. Ethics he has passed on, and what we will hear about. So I'd like now to call forward his daughters, Tamara, Ilana, and Leora.
Shalom. Dearest friends and family, my dad was well known and well loved. If you said his name, Maurice Steele, it would ring a bell. His reputation preceded him. He knew how to connect with people, with you, a man of purpose. The weight of his words and their force came from his depth of experience. And so only a few choice words of praise or of pride he would get his message through to us. He was more than happy to share his ideas, not always happy to be explaining them to us. His direction was very clear, and if you were going to change his mind, it had to have equal weight and breadth. He would be willing to challenge our outlook because he wanted the best head start for us. More importantly, he wanted us to be free, to do as we needed to thrive. He was always interested and thoughtful, loving and humble, and loved to share stories of his adventures. Gregarious and sociable, he loved being with friends, sharing his insights about world affairs, politics, his projects, stocks and trends in the marketplace and in the world. He read voraciously and retained all of it, or mostly all of it, as it seemed to us. He watched and absorbed his favorite news and business programs that were not to be missed. Everyone would seek his advice for many reasons. He was very loving and cared deeply about his family, extended family, and close friends, which includes all of you here. He loved life, in the words of a close family member. He was truly loved and respected by everyone. Love you, Papa.
We feel so lucky and proud that Maurice was our father. He was a remarkable, standout individual, a true mensch, a man of immense integrity and honor. He was generous and authentic to the core. This is the way he led his life, and he was an inspiration to so many people, principled and humble. He was a strong and steady force for so many, and a pillar of strength for our family. He looked after everyone, wanting to protect us and always making sure the future was secure for all of us. He loved seeing his grandchildren develop their paths forward in life. He was immensely proud of Samantha for the confidence and passion she found in her chosen field of psychology. He showed keen interest in Jacob's architecture projects and repeatedly commented that he was a great draftsman. He was impressed with Noah's entrepreneurial talents and thought he was well suited for business. And he enjoyed learning about Daniel's creative pursuits in life, in art. Dad, you left your mark on this planet in more ways than I think you know. You loved life, and we're going to make sure that you live on forever, and all the three of us and your grandchildren. We love you so much. I can't believe we're here.
My dad never forgot his early life in Poland, and it had a huge impact on him and his approach to life. Despite the challenges he faced as a young boy, my dad always had a remarkably optimistic outlook. My dad felt that he was born under a lucky star, and that he had a guardian angel watching over him. He often talked about 3 turning points in his life. For those of you who have listened to him talk about this before, we could be here till late if I repeated everything he said. However, in summary, he really was grateful for 3 things that he repeated often. That he came to Canada with his parents and with Mira. And for marrying Patricia and having a family. And for the relationships that he had and opportunities in his business life, especially meeting Veer Mason, who gave him the opportunity to start BK Mason in Western Canada, which allowed him and Patricia to move back to Winnipeg to have a family, so they could raise their family with my mother's parents, Vera and Harold, and with my father's parents, MINYAN and Sam. When the tension between Germany and Poland reached a boiling point in 1939, his mother, my grandmother, Manya, had a strong determination to leave Poland. As luck would have it, which was his theme, the CPR was advertising for farmers for Western Canada. And although my family weren't truly farmers, Baba Manya urged my Grandpa Sam to apply, and they were accepted. The family arrived in Halifax in May of 1939 with no belongings, and only the equivalent of $1,000. And their decision to settle in Winnipeg steered the course of the rest of my dad's life. There are a lot of details that I can't go into now, but to highlight a few. As a young man, my dad boarded at the Jewish orphanage in Winnipeg to go to school. And although he was uprooted from his family in Stonewall, that's really where he made so many of his lifelong friends. Some of you are here today. And he talked about that experience in the orphanage often, fondly. As you all know, my dad studied engineering at the U of M, but he didn't really love going to school as much as playing cards in the common room. But he always said that the best thing that happened to him when he was at university was that he met Patricia, who he was married to for 63 years. My dad's professional accomplishments were beyond impressive. The foundation of his career was establishing VK Mason in Western Canada. He did so almost single-handedly at the beginning. Ultimately, he expanded it into a thriving and very successful company. But when VK Mason pulled out of Canada, my father, speaking to the right-minded nature, was very motivated to find employment for his loyal employees, and that propelled him to create a new employee-owned company with his namesake, MD Steel. MD Steel continues to be very successful, and as I was pulling into the cemetery today, I noticed an MD Steel truck on the street, and I know some of you are here, and we're very grateful. Those relationships were so important to him, and he maintained them really up until the end of June of this year. My father never really retired. He was actively engaged in new projects until the last week in June. He called it creative retirement. Most remarkably, he taught himself development, building on his strong relationships and his business insights. He turned acres of bare land that his father left for him and his family into very successful ventures. And for years, he had a vision to convert the 100-year-old home that my mother grew up in 606 Stradbrook into a quality, modern building that would last another 100 years. And he was amazed that the construction was complete and that the building was fully leased last month. In his later years, my father was finally able to devote time to the Jewish community in a meaningful way, and committed himself to ensuring the survival of the Jewish Heritage Center of Western Canada, a cause so important to him because of his family history. He has left an amazing legacy for all of us. We really don't know what life is going to be like without him here, but he has given us the strength and the path forward. But beyond all of what I've just said, he was grateful for his many friends and for his family, and he loved you all.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you to Tamara and Alana and Leora for those powerful and beautiful words of tribute, a beautiful eulogy for your dad. On behalf of the family, I would also like to acknowledge the pallbearers and the honorary pallbearers in the service: Jacob Rusensteel, Noah Rusensteel, Daniel Rusensteel, Andrew McKinnon, Jason Gisser, Leah Steele, I.D. Rusen, David Gisser, Diane Spivak, Gord McKinnon, Martin McGarry, and Charles Steele. I feel incredibly honored to be able to say a few more words here about Maurice Steele, someone I did not know well, but we knew each other. At least he knew me well enough 3 years ago to invite me to his 90th birthday party, though when I received the invitation, I was quite certain he thought I was somebody else. When I checked with Patricia, she said, no, we want you there, we want you there. I didn't end up making it, but I think it speaks to his generosity, to his kindness, to his relationships with people that his daughters talked about. But even meeting me a handful of times through the synagogue, he wanted me there. He was genuinely interested in people. The stories from his grandchildren in particular, of the genuine interest with which he would listen to their exploits in school, extracurriculars, the way he would light up when he talked to people. It fueled him almost as much as his life's work in construction. It's easy to say of someone who is really working basically until he passes away at 92 that his work defined his life. But in fact, with Maurice Steele, and again, he did have a company that was called Maurice Steele, it was the way he lived his life that defined his work. This is someone who loved what he did. That's why he kept going. That's why, after a few years traveling to Vancouver and Toronto and Ottawa, working as a young engineer in someone else's office, he decided to become self-employed, come back to Winnipeg and start VK Mason in Western Canada. That's why in the early 90s, as Tamara mentioned, he started MD Steel, taking care of the people who worked for him. And that's why at 77, when he retired, he started developing land his father had bought and that had sat untouched for over 50 years. Because he was a visionary. He took a look at empty land and saw potential. He saw growth. He saw possibility. Even if he couldn't explain what he saw or someone didn't see what he saw, his convictions, his confidence, his, as one grandson put it, sureness, was how he lived his life at home, in all his relationships, and in his various business ventures. As we talked about before, he was also always motivated by doing what he felt in his gut, in his soul, was the right thing to do. Yesterday, when I was with his family, I found it incredibly telling that one of his grandson's memories of him was something that the daughters didn't even really recall. A story Maurice had told them about saying something to someone in his youth that he later learned was an offensive thing to say. At the time, he had no idea. It was just a slip of the tongue, something people said casually, but he tracked this person down to apologize and to make it right. What an amazing thing to remember about your grandfather, Grandpa Mo. When it came to little things in life, he could be easygoing. When it came to the most important things, health, education, becoming worldly, being exposed to language and music and art and travel, he was unwavering. This came out in the tidbits of advice that he would give to his children and his grandchildren, and in all his business decisions. Together with Patricia, for over 60 years, 63 in fact, they built a life that is truly remarkable. Two people who were on the same page from when they first met at the fragrance counter at the Bay, when she was walking with her friend who happened to live across the street from Maurice. From their first date to see Brigadoon at Rainbow Stage, when Patricia recalls his car smelled like manure from the farm, and he had to tie the passenger seat together with a rope so she climbed into the car over the driver's seat. From the very beginning, their life was fun, full of adventure, mutual respect, and support. They enjoyed the symphony, the art gallery, the ballet. They traveled. They enjoyed their cottage at West Hawk Lake, which of course is another great Maurice story about vision and confidence. They had their cottage they had bought for 12 years, and then one day he called up Patricia and said, "We've torn it down. We're building a new one on the spot." They instilled in their children and their grandchildren who followed the values that they cared about and were aligned on so much. In addition to all of the pursuits to become well-rounded individuals, confident, sure, they stressed caring about your immediate and extended family. Know your family. Spend time with your family. Treat people like family. In the end, he leaves an incredible legacy for his family, for everyone with whom he came in contact. In his humble way, confident yet humble, we are talking about a man who only owned one suit, who didn't believe in material things but believed in the high quality of the things that he had. In his humble way, he had no idea just how many lives his life did touch. Again, evident by so many people being here today. The legacy that he leaves is much more than something that can be measured or counted. The legacy he leaves is in the way he built things that may be counted or measured. The way his actions throughout his life spoke to his convictions, his character, his right-mindedness, his confidence, and his kindness. Another piece of Jewish wisdom teaches that death will come. There is no way to avoid it. The only way we can rob death of the ultimate victory is to make it so that when it does come, it takes us from a corner of the world that was made just a little bit better because we were in it. There is absolutely no question that this corner of the world is made better because Maurice Steele was in it. And for that, the story of his life will continue to be written and added to long after he is gone, as it is with anyone who has a true vision of the future, of his family, and of the things that matter most in life. We're going to pause for a moment. Thank you, everyone, for helping out. At this point, the plan was to call forward Samantha, Maurice's granddaughter, who's going to sing a little bit for us a Jewish prayer called Oseh Shalom, an expression of hope and peace, looking forward, staying positive in all times.
Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Peace for everyone.
Thank you, Samantha. I'll now call on David Gisser, a cousin, to chant for us the El Malei Rachamim, the traditional Jewish memorial prayer in honor of Maurice Steele.
El Malei Rachamim Shochein B'Meromim Ametzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina B'malot Kedoshim Taharim Kezohar HaRakia Masirim Et Nishmat Moshe ben Shlomo Mechaleh Shalach Leolamo Began Eden Tehei Menuchato Ana Bal HaRachamim Astirehu B'Sefer Krafecha Leolamim Utzeror B'Tror Chaim Et Nishmato Adonai hu nachalato v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar Amen.
Thank you, David. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Maurice Steele, son of Samuel and MINYAN, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that he find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. Thank you again to everyone for being here and everyone who has tuned in. The family has asked that the Shiva be private, but we encourage you to continue to reach out to the family in any way you can. Phone calls, text messages, emails, to share your thoughts and feelings on Maurice and your expressions to help get them through this difficult time. Okay. They changed it on me. Everyone here is invited to Shiva. At the house? Okay. Right. Okay, forget the first part. Remember the second part. Please send your phone calls and your text messages and your emails. Everyone who is here at the cemetery is invited, if they would like to come back, for a meal of condolence, where our thoughts turn from honoring Maurice to comforting his family, his loved ones who are now in the period of mourning. The meal will be at 126 Lamont. And then there will be a couple of days of Shiva with visits at 121 Girton, which is Patricia and Maurice's address. Wednesday and Thursday in the afternoon between 2 and 4, or in the evening between 7 and 9. So again, 126 Lamont for the meal after this service. It's Lori and Gord's house. And then 121 Girton tomorrow and Thursday, 2 to 4 and 7 to 9, both days. We'll conclude in a moment with the very familiar ritual of shoveling earth into the grave. The family will lead us, and then everyone who is here is invited to participate. We believe in Jewish tradition that to accompany someone to his final resting place is the highest honor we can bestow upon a person, taking care of them literally until the end. So while it is a painful act, we remind ourselves it's one born of love and compassion for someone who meant so much to so many people. That we do it with our own hands because our loved ones deserve to be buried by our own hands. Kind, knowing, sorrowful hands, hands that once held their hands. We'll recite the Mourners Kaddish, and then the family will lead us, and everyone is invited again to participate in this mitzvah, this act, this selfless act we do without any hope of any reward, truly for someone else. You'll notice that there are shovels on both sides. People can line up on both sides. In front of me here, not everybody can see it, but in front of me here there's a small pail with a small shovel in case the big shovels are too overwhelming or daunting and you still want to participate. There are many different customs you will see in different Jewish cemeteries around the world. Most people will pour 3 shovelfuls of earth. Some people will use the front of the shovel, some people will use the back, some people will return the shovel to the earth, some people will pass it to the next person. These are all customs, and the ones with which you are familiar are the ones you should embrace as you participate in this ritual. Earlier in the service we said the words of Job, but we say them again. Job was the epitome of suffering in Jewish tradition. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach yehi shem Adonai mevorach. God has given, God has taken, blessed be the name of God. Today, and going forward, we will mark that the memory of Maurice Steele will be for a blessing, and that his essence will never leave our hearts and our souls. To his family we offer the words of comfort and tradition. Hamakom yinachem echem b'toch sha'ar avelei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May you be comforted and consoled among all those who are or who have ever been in mourning in our community. Thank you again to everyone. We turn now to the Mourners Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabah. Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon uvyomechon uchaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabah mevorach le'alam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha brichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates peace and harmony on high bring peace and harmony to us, to all Israel, to all humanity, as again we say, Amen. I invite the family to come forward.